Season 49, War number 2, and we are up against North, and this time my team will be Kate Bishop, Toad, and White Tiger. I will be taking Path 1 in Section 1, Path 5 in Section 2, and then I will be taking a Photon, Kindred, and Masacre mini-boss. And that's it for this war. Not quite as many fights this time around as usual, but that's fine. Having, well, I guess you could say easier wars every now and then. I don't really mind it, though I do like war, and the more fights I get, the better, so long as they aren't absolutely horrible, and, well, dying to them always sucks. So, starting off here we have an Elsa Bloodstone on the personal space regeneration node, and I am taking the fight with Toad. Toad is a tactic champ, so that's essentially all you need here. All I gotta do is just make sure I stack up the prowesses to deal with the indestructibles, and that's about all there is to it. If Elsa Bloodstone here starts stacking up too many regens, it shouldn't really be a problem, since I can shut down all of it with Toad's poison debuffs along with the Despair Mastery. Overall the fight should go down quite quickly, with some simple special 1 spamming. The special 1 damage on Toad is pretty good, and also the passive poisons against skill champions, they hit very hard as well, very quickly. So roughly 30 seconds in, Elsa is, well, below 40%, and I went ahead and got myself comboed, which did hurt a bit, but there's no risk of actually dying here. One more special 1 and the fight is done, and all that really means is I just gotta use another potion, which is nothing surprising at this point. Then, next up here we have a Wong on the Masochism Overtime node, and I will be taking the fight with Kate Bishop, starting with the Cryo Arrow pre-fight. Now, as usual, Wong is not really the worst defender, but it can get tricky if you don't manage his spells properly, so the game plan is to just not allow him to use any special ones. On top of that, I will also avoid triggering any debuffs on him, so no parries and no heavy attacks, unless necessary. And, well, since I saw how quickly he was melting here, I figured one heavy in the corner to refresh the arrow effects should be fine. Now at this point I realized I can't let this guy get another bar of power, otherwise my next Kate Bishop fight will be a lot more difficult, and I just barely managed to keep him below it, and that's very nice, and you'll see why in just a moment. Now Wong also isn't the best matchup for Kate, since energy damage does ramp him up quite quickly, and that is exactly what cold snaps do, so you need to be careful when taking that for multiple reasons. Then we have a Nova on the Ebb and Flow Intercept and Sadist nodes, and I'm taking the fight with White Tiger. Now Nova is a fairly simple tactic fight. I just gotta make sure I have the prowesses to deal with the indestructible, and then it's just the normal special 2 spam that you usually have with White Tiger. Now I gotta make sure I don't really try to dex his specials, since I don't wanna consume my prowesses, but here with the special 2 I don't really have an option for the last part. I'd rather just not take the chip damage, consume a couple prowesses, and then just close it out. Just to save at least a single potion, hopefully, even though, again, it's not really a problem. Either way, fight went down, no issues. Then we have the Destroyer here on the Ebb and Flow Intercept and Mighty Charge nodes, and I'm taking the fight with Kate Bishop. And this fight is the reason why I didn't want Wong's crossfight on Kate. If this guy starts the fight off with extra power gain, it can get very tricky very quickly, since I'm technically on a time limit here. I need to finish him off before he gets his own passive power gain, and to do that, well, I gotta get my special 1 cold snaps in early. So game plan is to use the parry evade as an intercept, as we see here in just a moment, to remove the Ebb and Flow Intercept node, get the passive Fury, and then drop the special 1 with an advanced power boost to get that big damage cold snap on him, then bait heavies, punish the heavies to pause the cold snap, and repeat until the fight is done. He didn't get to trigger his passive power gain at all, and didn't get his special 2 either, so the fight went down pretty much as well as it could have, and Kate Bishop, probably one of the better options for the fight, though we usually use Titania. Then we have a Photon on the power snack and 1 too many hits mini-boss nodes, and I'm taking the fight with Kate Bishop, and well, when I was planning this fight, or my game plan for it, I wasn't really sure which pre-fight I should use, and I ended up going with the Tranquilize arrow instead of the Cold Snap. The reason for that is if I can get 2 of them on Photon and I can keep them up, she will not trigger any debuffs on me, and if she can't trigger any debuffs, then she will not get any charges, and if she can't do that, she will never trigger the Pure Light form, and well, then she will never fail my dexterities either. So that is the ideal situation. Now, in hindsight, I probably should have just gone with the Cold Snaps to begin with, just to get some damage going and just melt her down with those, before the Pure Light form would even be an issue. But here we are. Now I got the first one on, no issues, but that is not enough to shut down the debuffs completely, so some of them still get through. Now with the second one, I should be good, and I just gotta make sure I don't eat any specials, and that I watch for the power snack node and not push her to a special 3. I had to go ahead and switch my arrows here as well. I didn't quite get the double taps that I needed to switch all the way to Cold Snaps, but now I do, and technically all that's left is to just get a special 1-off and then dance around for a bit. But here I made a big mistake. I pushed her too close to the special 2. Well, I pushed her to a special 2, then triggered a dex for the power snack, and immediately afterwards I got comboed, which consumed all of my invulnerability boost, as well as pushed her to that special 3, allowing her to just drop it and try to nuke me with that. Now it didn't do too much damage, partly due to me having Inequity active, as well as the stronger special 3 defense boost, which definitely was worth having on. So overall, the fight didn't go too badly, even though I ate the special 3, and it's honestly not too bad. Next time though, since I'm fairly comfortable fighting against Photon regardless of the debuffs, I'm probably just gonna go with the Cold Snaps and not drag out the fight any longer than necessary. Then we have a Kindred here on the Power Focus 2 and Scared Stiff mini-boss node, and I'm taking the fight with Kate Bishop as well. Game plan is, well, to just play Kindred as you should play against him, bait specials and punish them to pause the infestation charge gain, and that's about all you need to do to avoid the degeneration, though that's easier said than done. Sometimes it's just not throwing the specials, and then you end up just stacking too many charges for him and triggering the degens, but here he is being very trigger happy with them, which is nice. Getting 2 special ones on, these Cold Snaps will be enough to finish him off, and I made a slight mistake here by mistiming my striker, causing the root to leave me further away from him than I wanted to. That caused my special one to whiff, but luckily the Cold Snaps did manage to finish him off immediately afterwards, so I could avoid all the degen damage. And I say luckily, because sometimes when you shut down the root by using a special, Kindred still doesn't immediately die even if you try to deal some damage. For whatever reason, sometimes he just requires an extra hit or 2 for basically no reason, and I can't exactly explain or understand why that happens, but didn't happen this time, so all is good. Then we have another Masacre here on the Hazard Shift Incinerate and Poison mini-boss node along with Stun Immunity, and I'm taking the fight with Toad. As previously, the game plan is to just avoid hitting him during the Incinerate phase, so I don't have to deal with the Incinerate debuffs, and then during the Poison phase, just be aggressive, get in, spam those special ones, get the poisons up, and then hope that those become passives whenever Masacre dashes around. Now, for whatever reason, this specific Masacre was extremely aggressive, and I was kinda struggling keeping my spacing on the field here, but overall he's still not too bad to fight against. Now, as I mentioned in the previous war, you really do not want to use an Incinerate immune against him on these nodes. If you trigger an Incinerate immunity, for whatever reason, you will take a totem burst damage, and it's essentially a death sentence. So you can only use a poison immune, or you could also just shrug the debuffs with some other champions. Overall, the matchup isn't too difficult, as long as you don't use an Incinerate immune champion. Basically any tactic champ works, so long as you can deal with the poison at the very least. As for the results, we did end up winning the war 41-5. So an immediate improvement from the previous war, which is very nice to see, since that one was absolutely horrible. As long as we can keep our deaths at around 5 or lower, we should be, well, getting a decent placement for the season, but we'll see, anything can happen.